Ladies and gentlemen, the Ukrainian Chorus Dumka of New York.
Hello, hello. Welcome to Overtime. The city. Oh, hold on one sec. Of course, there's going to be an issue here. Why wouldn't there be? The port city of Kherson has fallen. You can see it here on the map. There's been some reports that maybe it wasn't as bad as that the military just sort of staged it. At this point, we have strong confidence that the city has fallen. What that looks like in practical terms, the Russians are in charge. There is no effective military left inside the city. They have complete control of everything. They have instructed the citizens that there is a curfew. Anyone out past the curfew presumably will be shot and killed. Also, people are not allowed to walk more than two together. Families, husband, wife, anything like that, no more than two together. Anyone who does, again, ostensibly will be killed. So they are in complete control of the city. Yeah. Thank you, Titan. I always appreciate having you around. So they have complete control of the city. This represents a part of a major offensive at this point that appears to be focusing primarily on the port cities. Odessa is at this moment under heavy attack, to the best of our understanding. So is, I'm sorry, what is the remaining city there? Oblast, Chernivtska Oblast. I probably got that wrong. Odessa, Zaporizhzhia. Wow. So I said, I've told people this before. I'll say it. I'll try not to say it too many more times. I do speak Russian. I read Russian. And what happens is my brain gets very, it's already, reading is actually already a real challenge to me. But when I'm reading a Russian word, I start trying to, so like, for example, in Russian, a P is an R. This is a P makes an R sound. If I'm reading a word that I know is in Russian, if it's spelled in English, the P's throw me, all the letters throw me, because I'm like, wait a minute, which language am I reading? So I do get confused about that. I don't believe they have Odessa. It's fiercely contested. The fact is they're not trying to destroy Odessa, which is for us the biggest indicator that they're trying to take the whole country. Odessa would be huge in that aid. We'll cover that once again. I know we've covered it before. So that's essentially what we're looking at. What I'm going to do, and we've shown this footage a few times. This is combat footage. There are no. It's not, it's not no huge warning on this one. It's not fun to watch, but it's not. We don't anticipate like particularly gruesome footage tonight, but I did want to show you this one. This is, in my view, the best example of clear-cut evidence that they are in fact targeting civilians. We believe that they're doing that significantly today. This is the footage here. You've probably seen this already a few times. This is This is civilian areas here, and what you can already see the smoke from the hits of the shelling that's already started. We're going to see the shelling at this point here. This is all Kharkiv. When we aired, so 2 days ago, the civilian death count, official civilian death count, was at 12, but we knew it was obviously much higher. The official numbers is basically what's been able to be verified. As of yesterday, the official count had moved to about 140. Today, the count is over 2,000. That's 2,000 civilian lives confirmed to be lost at this point. Again, they're targeting civilians. I don't believe we actually ended up getting. I'm still trying to get. We have it, and there's a lot going on. So I think we may have the footage of the what is believed now to be the second deployment of the so-called vacuum bomb. That was deployed to the best of anyone's knowledge at this point. It's not confirmed, but it's strong likelihood that it was deployed over a military base, and no survivors of the base to the best of our understanding at this point. It is considered a war crime, so are cluster munitions when they're used in these areas. So we have multiple crimes at this point, and Putin does not seem to care. This footage also we're going to show you briefly. I don't believe this man was targeted. It was a civilian who was recording. Now, this is the shorter version. We have the longer version on our Discord if you want to see any of this footage and more. Hop into our Discord. We're also constantly, obviously, discussing this. We do a lot more than just this. This is our news program, and we've basically suspended all of the programming until this is done. We don't have the ability to bring you accurate information as quickly as possible on this, and do interviews and all the other normal stuff that we do that's a lot more cheery. So, but come into our Discord, see what we're about, have the partake in these discussions. And this is, it's always weird to say this because it wasn't intended to be this way, but in time has sort of become almost a crowdsourced news channel. It's the people who contribute and who give us good information are the ones who help make what you see on air, and we wouldn't function without them. So, anyways, this footage right here. This tank has already fired several shots at the buildings to our left, to its right, as it's proceeding towards the man with the camera. And I don't believe the man here was targeted, believe it or not. I don't think they had a spotter. I don't believe that they saw that he was there with the camera. They were just shooting wildly. To the best of our knowledge, this person was okay. We also have, and I think it's worth showing, at this point, outrage has grown so immense that we have, when President Zelensky was speaking about what is going on in Ukraine, he was giving a standing ovation. The same diplomats, when the Russian delegation, the Russian side, started to speak, the same diplomats all walked out. This is as the Russian diplomat started speaking, they left. Nobody wants to hear it. The footage coming in has been obviously very difficult for the most part. I think tonight we're going to try to avoid any of the difficult ones. I am looking for, I'm also trying to make sure I don't inadvertently play something I'm not supposed to. We have a lot loaded into the interface here. So I did want to play one, and I loaded it, and it is not here, but I apologize. So let me see if I can find this video clip. Two different meetings with the same day that Putin had this No, I hadn't heard that. In fact, actually, there's a few other things that are worth noting. In fact, why don't we'll sort of finish just a basic rundown of what's going on. Obviously, the casualties are enormous. Let's take a look at this map, and then we'll take a look at one or two other important things. It appears now that they've completed two of the strategic objectives that we believe they wanted to accomplish in the first 24 hours. The first is they have taken... here we go. They've taken Kherson right here. And this map, I do believe at this point is lagging by at least an hour or two. It appears that they took it actually as much as 4 or 5 hours ago, but it's been confirmed several times by several other agencies. I'm not aware of the UN ever happening this. It appears at first we were under the impression that that was the EU, but I believe now that's the UN. Now. You can see they're going to try to meet up here. It's taking forever to load. So this is Mikoro. I can't see it. I can't think. There we go. Mykolaiv. This is Mykolaiv, and you can see they already have the air bases around it. They have a number of areas around it, and they're trying to bring in reinforcements from there. This was very much sort of our understanding of the original plan. One problem is that we believe that all of the staging materials, the reinforcements, the fuel, food, whatever they needed, which was ostensibly only for a 7-day siege. We believe at this point that most of that was actually going to be staged out of Crimea, and the plan assumed bridging Crimea and Donbass right here. The plan assumed bridging that in the first 12 to 24 hours. It's been 7 days. They haven't succeeded. Actually, they have succeeded. We still believe, we covered this earlier, we do believe this map is inaccurate. We believe they've succeeded. Once they succeed, if we understand their battle plan correctly, and there's no way to know, they're not telling anyone. Although actually we do believe there is a credible report that we actually have now a copy of the original battle plan, that it was leaked. It strikes me as credible. That plan was dated January 27th, so it looks like this was all good to go well in advance. At any rate, what we're looking at is once that's bridged, the reinforcements weren't on the eastern side of this. They were actually to the south, so they can't really proceed until that happens. But once that bridge is made, which we believe it has been made, they will be free to start advancing from this area. As you can see, they are taking an increasing amount of Ukraine. The civilian attacks in Kharkiv are getting absolutely brutal. As I said, we've gone from 100 and I think it was 47 confirmed civilian deaths yesterday to over 2,000 confirmed civilian deaths today. It's irrefutable that they are targeting civilians. They're also a major push right now to take the remaining ports. Kherson is the first major city they've taken. They've taken a number of villages. Some of the villages they're just destroying, torching, blowing everything up before leaving, presumably, and taking the food. Presumably, this is so that they can't recover and they can't be used as staging areas. They have taken and held a few of them. This is the first real full-size city that they've successfully taken. If they take Odessa, right now, it's not a big problem. But the reason Odessa is such a concern, the original thinking was that one of three things would happen. They would only try to take Donbass. We now know that that is not true, because if they were only going to take Donbass, they could just enter the border from the east. They wouldn't have to worry about Crimea. But they actually started from Crimea, which means they're going to go past Donbass. If they leave from Crimea, they connect it with Donbass, they can actually go all the way along the river here, supply themselves from the river right through Crimea. Just keep complete supply going, and all the way up through Kiev. That means they could take easily a third of the entire country without too much difficulty and stop at the river. The river is a great place to stop, and frankly, the most important resources are all east of that river. So once they've taken everything through that river, there isn't a whole heck of a lot of reason to continue unless he just wants the entire country. But in terms of from an economic sense, that river is also, but the rest of the country won't survive. They have all of the They have all the food, and all of the major resources are to the east of the river, and the river itself is their only way of getting imports and exports through the country. It is the lifeblood of that country. If they take it, the Ukraine is not going to really survive in any meaningful sense. They may be able to get stuff in and out through the border, but the river was everything to them. So we believe the original plan was to take everything east of the river, but if that's the only plan, what about Odessa? Now, Odessa is the largest remaining port city, and they have to do one of two things with Odessa. They must do one of two things with Odessa. They must either destroy it so that they can't be attacked and there can be no staging from there, or they have to take it. It's easier to destroy it, just artillery, missiles, whatever. They did hit it briefly. They have hit it once or twice, but they also dropped in paratroopers, and amphibious craft were landing there. Why? Only one possible reason: they're trying to take it. Why take it? If they're not planning on ever going west of the river, there's no need to take it. None. You're risking troops and wasting precious resources taking something that's of no value to you. The only value it has is if they pass through the river. Once they get about halfway through the country, if they've taken it, it makes taking the remainder of the country phenomenally easier. And if you look at this map here, you can see what I'm talking about. We have the river here, but the river goes through about 1/3. If they take up to the river, they've taken 1/3 of the country. If they decide to take the whole country, once they pass the second third, it gets a lot harder to get supplies in from the river, unless they have Odessa. If they have Odessa, then they can take the whole country and supply from there. But Odessa's worthless until they've made another third way into the country. So until they've taken 2/3 of the country, Odessa's worthless, because the river, they can still use the river. It's only once they essentially pass Odessa that it's easier to resupply from Odessa than from the river. So they're taking the whole thing. That's that much, or at least that's their plan. So that column has been stalled. You can see it here. They sent out a convoy. The convoy was destroyed, and the column is still here. We believe that column was intended to attack 2 days ago. It's been stalled. We believe at this point, at least a significant amount of that stall has come as a result of sabotage by the Russians of their own equipment. We believe they've been destroying their gas tanks. We believe they don't want to fight, but they don't want to be killed for not fighting, so they are doing everything they can to slow their own progress. There's another report. It's unconfirmed. It's impossible to tell whether it's real or not, but I think there is a distinct possibility that it's real. The report is that there was, in fact, an assassination attempt on Zelensky's life. The only reason it failed, at least according to this report, is because Russian intelligence tipped off Zelensky. If that's true... all right, stand by one. All right, let's do that. I'll need 1 minute, folks. I had opted to do this show on my own. I appreciate that Mouty is there, and Desandring was available, but I've decided to do this one on my own. Previously, it was because it was just going to be a very difficult show, and I felt that we should probably have only, like it or not, the face of In Time up there doing it. This one's a different one. I'll brief Mouty and everybody else on that later. But it turns out that Commander McMillan is available, and he's a resource that I'm not going to say no to if he's available. So I'm going to. We did not have the room up. I was not prepared for bringing anyone in on the in-time interface. You can't actually not be ready. It's always up on the overtime interface. It takes a second to prep for guests. So I'm going to do that now. We do have also some exciting and positive stuff that I want to show you guys. Now, there may still be an echo. We've been fighting an echo that's been coming in. There's a sound setting, and it's just one of those things that's going to take like an hour to fix, and haven't had an hour. So I do apologize. If you are getting an echo, please don't hesitate to let me know, and I will do my best to combat it as we're... as we're doing it, but it's just like it's one of those things. And I mean, the thing that happens, we've been through this kind of thing many times before, and every time we get better at it, and we learn, in particular, the things that we're not doing as well as we'd like to be. And, so we get better for next time. And I think definitely I'm going to try to find some ways, A, to make sure that there's like a backup of the interface that we know is reliable, so that if the main interface goes down, we have a good backup, and B, process information a little bit better so that we don't, that's all on me. We'll get that sorted. So I'm just about ready for Commander McMillan. I don't know if he's watching or not. My assumption is he's probably not. But all right, I think the room is open. We probably won't have sound on him immediately when he comes in, but all right. I'm going to make sure he gets the invite now. We should be ready for him. So, let's just make sure he's got the link here. All right. So, Commander McMillan, if you are there, you can use the usual link to come on in. So we are good. The room is now open. So we also know that on top of everything else, it looks like the value of the ruble has been downgraded from, as an investment, a triple B, which actually isn't all that good already. It has fallen 6 levels to a B minus. Now that is actually, I think triple B is already junk status. Junk doesn't mean the same thing really that you'd think it does. Yeah, we've had this discussion before. What do words mean? And they mean different things in different fields. The word theory is the most often used example. The word theory means something very, very, very different in science than it does to you or I, or to like a private investigator, or to a lawyer. So, yeah, we're good. Okay. Junk does mean it's not ideal but it's actually the vast majority of trades, actually, if I recall it, I understand, is what is so-called junk, and somebody who deals in junk bonds. All that really is bonds that are just not the highest rated. They are riskier, but it's not bonds that are have no value or presumed to fail. So, yes, it's been downgraded to so-called junk status, but that doesn't really mean that it's worthless. But a B minus, from a triple B to a B minus, is a significant fall. I'd also like to point out, we were talking about the sanctions, and we're gonna show some effects of the sanctions. But all that aside, the sanctions have only begun to have an impact, and the impact is already catastrophic. I'm still a little surprised by Fox News sitting there saying that, and it wasn't Fox News, it was one of their regulars, a former Treasury Secretary, Assistant Treasury Secretary, and she said, well, it's Russia. She literally said, I am not joking, and we aired this, and we did our little. I was just like, you know what, just air it. It'll be 5 minutes. Yes, I'm aware the intro and the outro is longer than the clip, but what do you say to something like this? She literally said, Russia is being canceled by aggressive Ukrainian defenses. Excuse me? I'm only half joking. That's basically, in my view, like a war crime, just saying that. And the reason I say that is because it's like, she has completely inverted. Okay, you know what? I'm not going to go there to derail the show. We'll have that discussion. Anybody who wants to in VC afterwards. All right. So what I may do here is, I believe, all right, I am actually going to call Commander McMillan. So what I'm going to do is, while I'm preparing to do that, so that you will have something to see here. The other thing I really am trying to, so now I just want to make sure, like I said, we've got a lot of loaded clips here, and I want to make sure we play the right ones, because, and we had a difficult night, and we played some very difficult ones a short while ago. I don't want to be in the position of you guys seeing something that is more than we're really going to be discussing here at this show. I did want to, there's 2 or 3 clips here, actually, that I'd like to, all right, that's one that I've wanted to play, and for whatever reason isn't loaded. So we'll load that one. Dear Lord, there were a whole bunch that were loaded, and now they are not. And I don't know, this interface has been acting a little wonky, but we'll get that sorted. That is basically, so we've got what we've got here is the fall of Kherson, and we've got one other. I would like to find, there was a very up close and personal view of basically the strike on the Kharkiv. What was it? It was the Kharkiv government building. We do have that. It was a man. He is fine. It's very startling footage. The man is actually is fine, but he was recording a message on his phone just about his views on the war, and then the building was struck, and he so we have that. We should have that. I don't. Some of these appear not to have transferred over. So, and then this is this the okay, this is not the purported vacuum bomb, but this is the purported vacuum bomb one was basically, it was somebody nearby who was recording, and then you see the mushroom cloud that we saw before from the night strike, and he's looking at it, and he thinks he's far enough away, and all of a sudden the shockwave hits him, hits everything around him. He was okay. I know this because he ran like hell afterwards, but for whatever reason, we don't seem to have. I'm going to try one more and see. We did. Okay, so this is. It's a short video. I'm going to see if I can eliminate the echo before we start it. This is a recording that somebody was making from, and you do need the audio on this. The audio is kind of important. So this is a recording. A man was making this recording just as Freedom Square was struck in Kharkiv. The individual is to the best of our understanding, is fine. So we'll play that, and then I have one or two more things that I think we're going to show you here. So here we go.
Закинем в метро, и мы кончились, поэтому если сбор денег снова... Yes.
I'd like to point out, this is a second footage that we have of truly badassery. Despite all of that, I'd like to point out, if you pause that at the right spot, he's still holding his cigarette. And we also showed earlier the man who had the landmine and decided quite bravely, I think this was just a civilian, and said, I think we need to get that landmine off of the road. So he picked it up and walked it to the side of the road, and as safe as I guess he felt he could take it, and kept smoking the entire time. That was, yeah, okay. I'm impressed. So, all right, I'm still waiting. Now we've got, I just want to double check here. I am trying to find, we haven't heard from Commander McMillan. I think he's there, but I have actually confused which one was. I don't know that I've got his phone number. There you go. So I'm actually going to give him a call. I think he's going to have a lot to say. Things are going, obviously things are difficult. On the flip side, like I said, I do think we've got the light at the end of the tunnel. The other thing I want to bring up before, while I'm still trying to figure out how to reach him, the other thing I do want to bring up, we did a show on this earlier, and this is worth noting. There is now a $1 million bounty on Putin's head. It was one of the oligarchs who put the bounty on it. This is not a joke. He put the bounty on LinkedIn, posted to LinkedIn, bounty. Now, ostensibly, the bounty is for the removal of him being arrested for war crimes and any number of other things and for violation of the Constitution. Any military officer can get this bounty just by arresting Putin for war crimes. That sounds highly unlikely, and like that's not going to happen, but I think just the nature of the fact that this bounty was placed, things are getting extremely bad for him, and I don't think if unless he de-escalates, I don't think he's going to make it much past Saturday. I think something's going to happen, and he's not going to be in power. Having said that, the bounty, while it said for removal, what the bounty actually did was it also had a poster, wanted dead or alive for war crimes, and it had Putin's face. So I think things are getting pretty serious. Yeah, that landmine removal one was, dear Lord. I don't know that we've got it. If somebody can make that easily accessible, just drop it in the current on the, the news there. I also want to tell you one other one. I've forgotten the name of this city. I do have it written down. I think this is very worth covering. Let me see if I can get this up, and then I will, again, try to reach out to Commander McMillan. This is, well, let's just see what we got here. Now, is this, nope, that's the, so what this is paratroopers who had landed and managed to take, and I have forgotten the name of the city. Let me see if I've got it here. They managed to take, I've missed the name of, okay, and this actually isn't the footage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys this. This is not what I was looking for, but we'll put this up for now. And then we will, hopefully we'll have McMillan on in just a minute. So I'm going to need 1 minute. While we're waiting, I will play this. We will be playing it without audio. This is a report from, and honestly, I've forgotten the source. So stand by one on that, and I'll be back in a second, folks. Soutter. Ready? All right, we do have Commander McMillan. He is on his way in. That he is a valuable resource. Obviously, those of you who've seen him before, he has forgotten more about the military than probably just about any guest we've ever had on has ever known. So he's been a valuable asset. Most of this is Kharkiv now. One of the other things I'd like to show you. So it's Konotop is what we're going to get into in just a minute. Now, Konotop is essentially a village. Now, keep in mind a village doesn't mean, like they're all living in huts. It's modern buildings, modern homes. But the village is basically based on the size, how many people are there. And we have a village that has been overrun by the Russians, and they have basically said that everybody in this village needs to surrender. All the civilians need to. I forget what exactly it was an ultimatum of some kind, but it's essentially a war crime. They said that if they don't comply, they're going to kill everybody in the village. So the village has formed essentially, last I heard, human shield themselves around their own building. This is done by the civilians, and there is actually also currently a human shield around to the best of my understanding, the largest nuclear power generator in all of Europe. I believe it's the largest one. It's in Ukraine. They have the area outside of it, and there's now a civilian human shield trying to keep them out. This is, let's get the, I do want to get the audio right on this, so I'm going to go get the audio, and then we'll play that one for you. And then I think Commander McMillan is going to want to weigh in on the Battle of, what was this one? Oh, I forgot what it was called. There's a very important battle that I think everybody here needs to be made aware of, the Battle of Techno House. We will be covering that. It was quite a thing. So we'll get to that in just a minute. I want Commander McMillan in for the Battle of Techno House. All right. Meanwhile, all right, and we now have the number of people who have fled Ukraine is in excess at this point of 1 million. Yeah. Sorry, I had no audio on this one. I didn't want to. I hadn't vetted this completely. I vetted it for violence. I did not vet it for audio. We have to be very careful playing the audio. You can get in trouble when playing it from other channels, and we just have to be careful. What they're doing here is they're sewing camouflage. This is obviously absolutely everyone is helping out. Actually, I do want the audio for this one if I can. They are basically buying. Let me see if I can get this one. I'd like to get the audio for this part. I did catch this audio. I think it's worth hearing. So this is. We should be able to play this here without an echo. So let's give this a shot.
A makeshift production line has been set up in one city basement as women sew camouflage nets for their troops. It's our duty. They die there for us, says this woman, while men line the streets to buy guns.
Russians kills little children, 5-6 years old, and we don't want it. We have to fight against it.
Ordinary Ukrainians willing to risk their lives to slow the invasion of their country. Even if it's a fight, they may be unable to win.
Let's go live now to our chief correspondent, Chris Reason in Kiev. Chris,
That was, and we had showed that earlier too. Oh, and I think Commander McMillan is here, so let me, the polite thing to do would be to not have him waiting. All right, we'll get him in, and then we'll just do a very quick sound check, because we have been having a few sound issues here, so let me just make sure that we've got sound. So, sir, if you could just give me a sound check and verify that you can hear me, and we'll see if I can hear you. All right, it appears Commander McMillan cannot hear me, so let me see what I can do. That, although that I'm gonna. It would be a shock if it was on his end, but it's entirely possible it's on his end. All right,
turn on the headphones.
Yes, sir, it does. I'm not necessarily the best guy to be asking for audio advice, but that much I'm reasonably confident about. But honestly, sir, it would not be in time if somebody didn't start muted. And so welcome aboard. You are clearly one of the crew. Thank you, sir, for joining us. If you could just give me a 1 minute rundown of your CV so people know who we're speaking with.
Sure. My name's Lance McMillan. I'm a retired commander in U.S. Navy. I served in the Navy for 25 years, attended Naval War College and the Armed Forces Staff and Command College. I was a specialist in amphibious operations and operational logistics. Worked extensively with all 4, 5, if you include the Coast Guard services. And I've been studying military science and military history since elementary school. Your lips are moving, but I can't hear anything.
I was going to get through one show without having muted. I muted myself so that I could. Son of a friggin'. We have a policy when we started in time, and I'm not kidding. People think this is a joke. It's still on the Discord. We made a document called the Order of Blame, or the Hierarchy of Blame, and basically it was whenever something goes wrong, if you want to know whose fault it is, you could go through this list. And for whatever reason, we just decided that the nearest applicable Canadian, if there was a Canadian in the vicinity that you could blame for just whatever happened, but the document's been modified, and basically now it's just always Neil 604. Who's a friend of the show. It's always his fault, so if I was muted because of Neil 604, and that's policy. I'm not allowed to say anything other. I'm sorry, Neil, but All right.
Well, if you stick with your old version, you could kind of blame me because my father was Canadian.
Okay, well, there you go. Well, and it turned out that anybody with a beard was always the last on the list, which I have no idea how that happened. Now, the list was a collective effort. Everybody else didn't show up to the meeting for the list. I don't know why. It may have been because it wasn't on the schedule. I don't know. Oh, sir, you are impugning my integrity. Oh, okay, you know what? We're not even going to go there. All right. Thank you very much for joining us. So I assume you are up to date with where we stand now. We've had a few people who've suggested, and I think there is this suggestion that Kherson has not fallen. We believe it has. The reports are there's a curfew. Anyone who violates curfew is at risk of getting shot and killed. No civilian is allowed to move more than 2 people next to each other. Anything more than that, and you risk getting shot and killed. We also believe what I think is the largest nuclear reactor is now encircled, and there's literally a human shield of civilians protecting it. I don't expect that to last. So where do you think we stand looking at sort of the entire map, and what's the prognosis going forward?
I think the Russians are still having enormous difficulties sorting out their logistical mess. I think their columns, the spearheads, have basically stalled out because they can't get fuel or ammunition, let alone food and other, medical supplies and such, to their frontline troops reliably. I think back in the Kremlin, the sense of frustration that this is not going anywhere near as closely to plan as they'd hoped is starting to set in, and I think that's one of the reasons you're seeing a lot more attacks on civilians. It's simply an expression of frustration and outrage. It would not surprise me in the least it was being directed from above. But even if it isn't, the troops on the front are certainly feeling those kind of angers and frustrations. That often is what results when those kind of things happen.
We've discussed this before a number of times, that really probably about the only thing that can stop this is the removal of Putin from power. I think, what was it? Titan will have to remind me of the expression. But that's the only thing that's going to do it, and that's going to have to come from the oligarchs who have been explicitly targeted. We also know that at least one of the oligarchs who has I think it was a $800 million yacht. That yacht was seized in Germany. There are actually civilians tracking these yachts to let people know where they are, and trying to get as many of these assets seized. One of the oligarchs, it turns out, posted, and this is not a joke, on LinkedIn, a $1 million bounty for Putin. Now, the post did say that it was for any military officer who arrests him for war crimes and crimes for violating the Constitution. Having said that, it did in fact use a wanted poster that had Putin's image on it and said, "Wanted Vladimir Putin, dead or alive." So I think there is a subtext. I assume that it's a violation of LinkedIn's policy terms of use to say I want him dead, so maybe they think with the poster it's okay instead of explicitly saying it.
So what exactly are your bona fides as an assassin? I need to see a good CV just to make sure I'm hiring the right person.
Well, it's a job, right? I mean, I suppose it's a stretch, but oh dear Lord, we have really gone into, and it's a reasonably short show on that, but we have a whole show just on, I mean, dear Lord,
how deep does the rabbit hole go?
Now, my take on this, now you're going to understand this 100 times better, but my take on this is that it really does, I mean, I have now already put sort of in writing, I don't think he's going to last past Saturday if this doesn't dramatically change, and the reason is because we've already got people in civilian positions resigning there. We now have a report that sounds semi-credible that a assassination attempt on the president of Ukraine failed because the Russian intelligence actually tipped him off. We have significant reports that they've been sabotaging their own fuel tanks so that column does not have to continue. If even half of these things are, and we've seen massive protests in St. Petersburg and Moscow, it really looks like the will of the people, the will of the oligarchs, and basically the will of almost the entire planet is against Putin. If one of the oligarchs was willing to put his name to this on top of two other oligarchs who have all but demanded publicly that he stop this, and one anonymous oligarch who may be the same one as the one who posted the we don't know, but I'm gonna say it's not the same guy because this guy doesn't seem to be interested in being anonymous. But as somebody who's been feeding information of what the meetings have been like and tipped off authorities already, it sounds like, I mean, how long can Putin hold out at this rate, do you think?
I think it all hinges on what the military does. If enough of the people in the command structure, not the troops at the front, but I mean back in Moscow and the other major cities, are losing faith in him and decide that it's time to end this debacle, that's what will change it. It's pretty much the same thing as what caused the Tsar to fall. It's when the troops are no longer willing to follow the dictates of higher authority. The oligarchs are important, but I don't think they're the critical mass that will bring that about. An oligarch's best use, if he were trying to do something to stop this, is he has the money to convince senior military people that it may be in everybody's best interest if they acted a certain way.
All right, I do want to quickly hit, and just as sort of a reminder, we're a news channel. This isn't we cover Ukraine only channel. There's been a lot of news, including the defeat of the attempt to make basically the morning after pill universally available across the country. There's been a couple of shootings in the United States. There's been some other things, but we are a reasonably small channel and have the resources really to cover one thing, and we want to do this as well as possible and as accurately as possible. We've already made a few mistakes, and the more we try to do, the harder it is to be both fast and accurate. So we've been dropping these things, but we do have a $5 super chat from Sinister Porpoise, who I'm very glad is reminding us, quote, according to Porpoise, quote, Texas dictator Greg Abbott has started prosecuting parents of trans children for providing gender affirmative care. The governor has changed the interpretation of long-standing laws. As a teacher, I am what is called a mandated reporter, which means that if I had any cause to suspect that a children was being endangered at home, I was required by law to report it. If a child told me they were being endangered, I could not keep that confidence. I was required by law to report it. Governor Greg Abbott has expanded that to include if you believe a child is receiving any kind of trans therapy or any medically approved by a board certified doctor, therapy counter to what he believes is the only possible therapy. So this has made all mandated reporters now required to essentially snitch out on trans students in schools. It's staggering. It is in violation of the AMA, American Medical Association's guidelines regarding but so I'm glad Porpoise has brought it up, because we have been letting some really rather important news slip through the cracks. So thank you, Porpoise, for that super chat, and thank you for reminding us of that, and that there is other things that need to be covered. I think it was also Greg Abbott who today was speaking at a high school. There were students behind him with the masks, and he demanded they take them off. He started with, guys, this is theater. The masks aren't doing anything. In fact, you know what? Just take them off. You need to take those off. And looked at one point like he was going to put his hands on one of the students to make the student take it off. It was quite shocking. That footage is out there. We may even actually have it, but I think it's on the other machine, so we're not going to get to it. But thank you, Porpoise, very much for your support and for that super chat. We really do appreciate it. So right now, so what we're looking at is somebody's going to have to try to remove Putin from power one way or another, and unless that happens, he's going to continue. Our read on this is that the Russian economy has already received an extraordinarily bad blow, and it's going to get worse. What is your read on what's happening in Russia insofar? And I'm aware this is somewhat outside the area of your expertise. It's out of my expertise too, but on the flip side, you're at least as educated on any of this stuff as I am. So what's your read on what life is looking like in the immediate future for Russian citizens, and what economically, and what that purports for what we're talking about here?
Well, it's already having a significant impact, because people who want to ride the subway in Moscow, who are used to just, tapping their credit card to get on the train, can't do that now, because all those credit cards are basically locked out. It's going to be hitting more and more severely the longer it goes on. It will hurt the average Russian considerably, but I think for the ultra wealthy, it's going to be far worse, because a lot of their money is tied up overseas. A lot of their property that they've invested in is overseas, and all that's going to be locking up. I mean, these are people who, they're Russian, and they have homes in Russia, but many of them live most of their lives overseas. They vacation overseas. They have, a house in New York, and a house in London, and a house in Paris, and a house in the Hamptons and Aspen and wherever else. It's going to be really tough for them not to be able to operate at all in foreign countries, because they've been locked out. And when you get back to Russia, it's nowhere near as fun as it is to, play in the circles of the wealthy overseas.
Yeah, I made this point because somebody had pointed out, hey, at least the oligarchs can keep all their money in Russia. I was like, the difference between being phenomenally wealthy in Russia and being, lower middle class is very slim. That's a slim, but you still can't get certain products because they're just not manufacturing them. You're still on a waiting list to get a car, and you can bribe as many people as you like. You can move kind of to the top of the list, but they're not manufacturing enough. So, and the money is more valuable outside of it.
My father went and visited. My father went and visited his old KGB nemesis some years ago in Moscow, and he was surprised. There are all these fancy stores, top-end brand name places, and everything, and he's just saying, "Wow, I never expected that." Right after the wall fell, that you'd be, this flush with consumer goods. And Victor looks at my dad and says, well, nobody can afford it except for the oligarchs. These stores only cater to them. The rest of us are still pretty much living in Soviet era economy.
Well, And that is one thing that they somebody had pointed out too. It's been really 30 years since they tried to switch from a sort of a Soviet economy to a capitalist economy. They've had some improvements in wealth over there as a result, but this looks like this is basically a complete slide back to I mean they've been completely cut out of the West. This is for me a wide speculation, and we haven't managed to speak to an expert on this. But my understanding is that they're going to start to have significant troubles even just getting food at this point, which means, of course, that these are. And you had said this too, and I've reiterated this because you said this last time you were on, and I forget this on occasion, and I think it's worth noting, which is Russian citizens are actually as much a victim of this as Ukrainian ones to some extent, because they didn't vote for Putin. At least many of them didn't. It doesn't matter really how many did or didn't, but nonetheless, and they're about to see a tremendous amount of suffering if this isn't reversed. Do you think that's a fair statement?
Yeah, I do. I think that the lives of the average Russian, they definitely have improved since the Soviet era. But if you look at how much their lives have improved, as opposed to, say, the lives of Germans who used to live in the former East Germany have improved, it's a night and day difference. And I think that's part of the issue here, is that when you take somebody who's already is marginal economically as the average Russian, and if a situation where the economy gets crippled and now he's struggling, he has, you would say, not as far to fall, but he actually falls further in many ways. There's a difference between there's a difference between not having the money to put meat on your table once a week and not having the money to put anything on your table.
Yeah.
And that's an extreme that I'm expressing here, but that's the kind of mentality that you have to be looking at with what's going on.
There's I've put up the map here. This is sort of a map of what currently is believed to be in Russian control. Like I said, I do believe this map is inaccurate on a couple of levels, not the least of which is we do believe that this bridge here between Crimea and Donbass is actually completed, and they do actually control that road. This map does not reflect that, and the map may be accurate and we may be wrong, but at this point we are suggesting that we believe this map is wrong. Based on what we've been seeing throughout the news. I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, Mariupol, which is the town located right at the juncture of those two arms that are reaching towards one another. Mm-hmm. You could tell that the Russians knew that was critical early on. They staged an amphibious landing in the area. They've dropped paratroops into the area. They know that they need to get that bridge in order to secure that whole flank, and it's pretty evident that even though it's it may have fallen, they're still fighting, and that's not going to be an open line of communication for probably a couple more days until they fully secure it.
Right, excellent. Well, that means that the map is more accurate than I had thought, and that's good news, because I mean, to the best of our understanding, they put most of their staging materials actually in Crimea. So once they can stage up through Donbass, that makes it easier for them to come. I mean, they haven't left Donbass. Now, I assume that the Donbass rebels aren't going to want to actually do an invasion, but they do have forces to the east of Donbass that haven't really tried to go in yet. Is that because they're waiting for a supply line from Crimea? Is that something else, or am I just wrong on the facts?
I don't think so. I think it really is because that has been for a couple of years now, basically trench warfare of a World War I variety. So the Ukrainian forces are well entrenched along that region, and trying to, stab an armored column through there is going to result in horrendous casualties. So it's better to kind of take that area en passant. You move behind it and cut off the Ukrainian forces, and they're forced to either withdraw or they gradually run out of supplies and they're forced to surrender.
All right. There's been a question of, and I'd actually like to know, I do want to ask you a question, not just yet, but this will be coming, which is, we believe, and as you've seen, we showed the footage that at least one vacuum bomb was used. We believe at this point another one was used at a military base, resulting in the loss of 80 lives. I would like your take on what you think the likelihood of each of those is. But before we do that, the reason that came up specifically is there is a question as to how much Putin is not a tactical commander here. How much control does he have about what they say or do? So this is kind of a hyperbolic question, but because Putin may not have the level of control about which I'm about to talk about. But to mention it, if you're Putin, you're looking at this map. What do you decide is a priority going forward, and what are your main goals here?
I think his main objective still is secure Kiev, which is the seat of government. It is the historical and traditional center of the Ukraine. If you can secure that, you can at least go through the charade of saying, oh, look, we've installed a friendly government. The illegal Ukrainian government that overthrew my big buddy several years ago, they're no longer in power. The good Ukrainians are back in power. We're leaving now. Bye. And it allows him to extricate himself from a situation that is turning rapidly from bad to worse by, putting up the mission accomplished sign.
All right.
I think that's his primary objective right now. I think he does want to take out as many of the major cities and transportation hubs as he can, because that allows him to strangle the country into concessions.
All right. Given what you've seen here, that column, I remember when that column was 40 miles out and we were looking at 2 hours tops, and then the closer they got, the slower it moved. It's been about 10 miles out, to the best of my understanding, now for over a day. What do you think, given what we have heard, which is not, we don't know for a fact it's accurate information. This is all, speculation. Well, not all speculation, but having hedged as much as I possibly can, what do you think are the possibilities that column's going to move forward in any meaningful way?
Looking at the map, the closer you get to Kiev, the more urbanized the terrain is going to be. And urban terrain, as we saw with all the fighting that was going on in Syria, of a well-equipped, mechanized army supported by Russian troops, but the Syrian forces using top-line equipment fighting against ill-equipped rebels. It took them, over a year, sometimes 2 years, to take key cities. Fighting in an urban environment is a very difficult, very costly enterprise. So my take is that if they continue that drive, it's just going to continue to drag on and get worse casualties as it mounts. I would think the smart thing to do would be to cut off and isolate Kiev. If you can cut it off so that it doesn't have food coming in, doesn't have electricity coming in, then eventually the people in the city are going to be more inclined towards surrendering. I think that's what an intelligent commander would do, but does Putin think in those terms? Do his advisors have the courage to tell him that's the better thing to do? And let's not shortchange the Russian high command. The general staff are very competent, very professional officers. The issue is that Russia has always had very, very centralized control of its military forces. So in many cases, senior officers kind of wait quietly with their hands in their laps to be told what to do, rather than suggesting that this might be a better course of action.
Give it.
There's the. Go ahead.
No. Please finish, and then I have two other questions. Although I forgot the vacuum bomb one. So, but please finish, and then I'll.
Sure. Well, I just want to say an example of that is you look right after the Germans invaded in 41, and Stalin was convinced that his generals were going to overthrow him because he totally screwed everything up and misread all the intelligence cues that the Germans were about to attack. And he basically was in his dacha drinking himself into oblivion. And after 3 days, he came out and found that the entire Politburo and all the senior generals were literally sitting outside his bedroom waiting for him to come out and tell them what to do. They had no intention of making a decision on their own.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, he was at some point. At some point, sir. I hope you will have some time. I would love to talk about actually that in particular, and Stalin, and the also just the sense that he was completely betrayed by Hitler. If I recall, he had actually, when his generals were telling him that Hitler had invaded, he refused to believe it. He then called the embassy and tried to get a hold of Hitler, who wouldn't take his calls, and just, well, there's clearly been some mistake.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh dear Lord. Yeah. Okay. So, I don't want to forget the vacuum bomb. So let's not forget that. But since we're kind of on history already, let's assume for a second that this sort of heads in a good direction, and Putin loses control of the military in some way or another. It ends up with him alive, but under either house arrest or somehow in some other way. Oh, that was it. Deposed with prejudice. So deposed with prejudice.
It's called internal exile.
Yes, thank you, internal exile. But the what we've been saying is, if somebody actually cashes in on that bounty, the code for that is deposed with prejudice. That's the end time. We're starting a new hashtag. That was the terminology I was looking for earlier. Deposed with prejudice. But if he's in an internal exile, it's always interesting to see, people like Slobodan Milosevic. Okay, they go after. Do you think? Judging by the number of times despots have either gotten away with it and or not, judging by that, how much do you think the world is going to actually hold him accountable for this?
I suspect that Ukrainians will demand that he be brought up on charges, and whoever his replacement is, a canny leader would realize, if you want to get back in the good graces of everybody else on the planet, you say, yep, here, we're turning him over to the International Court in The Hague to conduct a fair trial of this terrible person. And suddenly you become, oh, he's so enlightened. You're such a great guy. We're going to lift most of the sanctions now because Russia has redeemed itself.
So, do you believe, what do you believe is likelihood that a vacuum bomb was used either once or twice in this war so far? If so, does it constitute a violation of the Geneva Conventions? And what do you think we can expect going forward, including, is there any possibility it would actually be deployed inside a civilian area?
Well, it's important to remember that the vacuum bomb, or the fuel air explosive, was invented by the U.S. and used operationally on numerous occasions in Vietnam. To my knowledge, we have not used it since then. I don't think that we've ever said that it's a war crime to use it or anything like that. So technically, we could still use it, and if we're having it in our inventory, the Russians will have it in theirs. They developed it far more than we did. I did a little research on this because I figured you were going to be asking something about it. And
I hate being
I'm
a
not,
foregone conclusion, but yes, okay.
what I found is that most of the vacuum bombs that the Russians are using are not that big. The one of the tank with the big missile pod on top of it that you were showing the other night, for example, those are only 200 millimeter weapons, so like 8-inch. And the blast of some of the things that we've saw in those photographs that you not film clips that you showed, those look a lot bigger. So I can only suspect that either they've got something of that nature attached to one of their intermediate range surface to surface missiles, or it's an airdropped weapon to get that kind of yield, or potentially, and I don't know if it works in this fashion, but firing a whole volley of smaller bombs of that nature into the same area and having them all detonate at once might achieve the same effect. Have they used them? I would not be surprised at all. A lot of people don't realize we've seen declassified versions of what the Soviet war plans were for a World War III in Central Europe scenario. And we always assumed that if the Soviets crossed the border, that it would be days or weeks before things went ugly in terms of nuclear weapons and chemical weapons. And those declassified war plans show that no, they fully intended to drop over 1,000 nuclear warheads on the first day of such a war. So if they have conventional weapons that can achieve these kind of effects, they will not hesitate for a moment to use them. So I'm convinced that, yeah, they probably dumped several of them.
All right. And we have actually, what I do want to do is just, and we explained that mushroom clouds are just terrifying, and the reason they're terrifying is because we associate them with a nuclear blast. But actually, you can get them through any time when you have something that's really, really hot. It's the air acts as an insulator, and you create this sort of funnel until it evens out, and then you get the mushroom. So, you see a mushroom cloud. It's not a nuclear blast. It's conventional weapons, but it is pretty terrifying. So would like to show what and you've seen this before, would like to show it for the new people who haven't. This was the first purported use of one of these bombs, and then and we won't get into the mechanics of it too much because we've already done that, but I'd like people to at least see what we're talking about. It's a pretty terrifying weapon. I believe this should be it right here. I think I got it. Yep, this is it. So, and then there was a second deployment of it, we believe, at a military base, and we believe there were no survivors. That's it, and that's about all we saw of it. Those guys obviously got out of there very quickly. So, all right, well, I would like to get into the lighter side for just a minute, and believe it or not, there is a bit of a lighter side to some of this. First, do you eBay at all, sir? I know eBay is not supposed to be a verb,
but not much. I certainly haven't in the past 5 years, but even before then, I didn't do it much.
All right. I think you should reconsider. We have found this lovely vehicle here. This is on eBay. It is a T-72 tank, used, but in a fully functional. It is selling for $400,000, and it is, we believe this is real. It could entirely be a joke. Please don't. If you try to buy this and you get this is out of Ukraine, and is purportedly a captured T-72 tank that is for auction on eBay. So we hope. Wow.
To continue on the lighter side thing you were saying,
Yes.
have you heard that they've announced any captured vehicle is not going to be taxed by the Ukrainian government?
Oh dear Lord. Okay, I love it. Well, and then I don't know if you've heard of this is, sir. I know you've probably seen a lot. What we're about to show you is just losses on a catastrophic scale. It looks like a complete military loss, and I need you to brace yourself because this is kind of hard. This is the Battle of Techno House. It was really. It was a tough one, so let's get the Battle of Techno House up here. So this is a soldier. This was in Kherson, and we believe that this unit, a brave soldier, was ordered to take the Techno House, and we just please everybody realize that we felt obligated to show you this here. So here he is approaching the Techno House. Now there is I think a tactical issue here, and we'll get into it in just a minute. He is being cautious, which I assume, sir, you would agree that every soldier should be.
Oh, yes.
All right, and it appears he has now fired. He is firing into the
That's right.
Techno House.
Shoot the lockout.
I believe so. Now
open the door.
He has encountered his first significant technical issue or tactical issue. The door is locked. Yep. Okay. There you go. Yeah, you got that. Yeah. Just from the other side. There you go. Good job. Okay. Put the gun. That's a smart thing. I'm not sure if you're supposed to usually put your weapon down, like when there are. I mean, I'm just saying. I'm not an expert, but putting the weapon. And we believe that was in fact a complete loss for the Russians. The Battle of Techno House, and we do have at present the post-battle write-up. Battle of Techno House fought March 2, 2022. It was, it was the belligerents were a single soldier against a door, a steel door. Putin was commanding the Russians. The door frame was commanding the Techno House side. Strength was one AK-47 versus a door handle. Casualties and losses. Ammunition and pride on the Russian side, and a window on the Techno House side. The Battle of Techno House to go on in infamy. You heard it here first. At in time, the famous Battle of. I know, sir, you will be recounting this as you teach classes. The Battle of. I push the weapon down. It's like. Oh,
Dmitry,
Lord.
come away from there. We need armor support.
Yeah. Oh my. We're always, these are very difficult times, and so I think but humor is what gets people through these kinds of things. So I think we needed that. The Battle of Techno House. Now the website went down, as people know, but we do often source things permanently on the website if there's something that we've there are documentation and stuff like that we can't easily put on the Discord. Discord has copies of basically everything that we do. So if you see any video and you want to learn more about what we're showing, you want to learn more, come to the Discord. You can also chat and hang out. It's not just information. We discuss all sorts of things. We have channels for gaming. I'm an avid gamer. In fact, we also get like a weekly free game dropped in there for people who are interested. But also philosophy, science, all of these things. Any topic that's an educational topic, discussions on in there, and a lot of it's fun. And we have a lot of experts who come in and talk to us. So I hope you'll join that. We're not just the war channel, but again, since we do cover news and we consider that part of covering culture, we really cover culture and politics. Well, unfortunately, I hate to say it, you're looking at it. This is who we are. A good deal of the time, so this is why we're covering it. But come in, join the Discord. You can see that, but I do think we're going to make a page dedicated to the Battle of Techno House. That's worthy. I'm not going to make a bid on that tank. Well, actually, now wait a minute though. Was that a reserve price? Because I'm just wondering, like, if there's no bottom on that, is that just okay? That's the buy it now price. But there is a best. You know what? I may need to bid on that because that is actually not a reserve price. So I could put in like $5 and maybe get a tank. I have no idea how it's going to be delivered. I assume that like there's going to be some state ordinances I'm going to have to I'm just saying, but it might be worth it. Do you think does Amazon deliver from Ukraine? Are you doing?
I think the Bureau of ATF is going to require you to demilitarize your tank if you do bring it in.
Oh, for son of a! You know what? I wish Zandring was on this show because he'd tell me how to get around that kind of thing. I mean, quite frankly, it's the Second Amendment. It's the Second Amendment. There's nothing in the Second Amendment. Arms. I have the right to. That's a T-72. That's not a. You know what? No. You know what? I want to talk to my congressman because, quite frankly, I think I will say this: the neighbors have a dog. It does bark, and I think they'll keep that dog a little under control if that's on the lawn. Okay, I'm just saying. I think that's going to change my status in this neighborhood, like the PTO meetings. Like if they're like, that's the guy with the tank on his lawn. I mean, just imagine it. I'm going to put in a bid. I think that driving down the road in my new T-72. Yeah, it's not new. It's used. Okay, let's be accurate. It's a used.
But it looks like it's in good condition.
It does. I mean, for something that's I mean, well, I take it you saw this. If you didn't, we'll play it. It may still be in the system here. If it's not, I'll get it in. Yeah, it is in. We're going to play this also since we're already on the lighter side, and then we'll probably try to get back to the a tank. I don't know what kind of tank, and it may not be a tank, it may be an APC. I can't tell the difference, but a military vehicle of some type ran out of fuel. The driver got out and tried to commandeer a tractor to take it, and as they had hooked it up, but then he got into an argument with someone. So this is the first part of that here. Which is that, okay, I guess somebody's throwing a rock and then the guy was actually out by this point. So that is the farmer who owns the tractor, and he is now making off with whatever that vehicle is. And you can see, hold on, where's the second part of this here? I'm sorry, I confused the videos again. This is actually where he's making off with it. So that's the guy. He wants the vehicle back, but he didn't catch up. He kind of lost that thing. Yeah. And there's footage of him basically getting home with it, and his wife is there. And farmer's just pulling that thing to it. It's just like, and she's just like got this look at her head slips, and she's like,
I send you out for milk and bread, and you come home with a tank? What the hell is wrong with you?
These guys, it's just they're not fucking around. And that and the other one, and I've done this twice before. You're gonna have to. I'm sorry, the live chat's gonna be. There was one of one of the we've got the live map, and it's got all these incidents in it. I was going through them, and one of them, police officers destroyed a tank. I want to know how that started. My assumption is that the police just like they pull it over, they go to the guy, license and registration. Are you from Ukraine? Are you, what are you doing in this country? Do you have your passport? Are you here legally? Because I have reason to believe, this is probable cause by this point. And the guy's just like, well, I'm in a tank. What are you going to do? Like, well, hold on a sec. We'll be right back. And somehow this ended with the tank being destroyed. I was like, don't mess with the police in Ukraine. If you get pulled over, it's just whatever the fuck they tell you to do it. Damn. Oh, dear Lord. Yeah, that's what the interesting truth. I love it. The wife was probably like, I should have listened to my mother and married Boris. It's like, yeah. Oh, my God. All right. Well, so, yeah. All right. Well, and then let's see. There was, I think there was one other piece of footage or one other thing I really wanted to make sure I covered. I think we've got most of it. The other one that I think I told you, though, Now this was okay. So what was ordered in the town? This was a Konotop, and I guess the mayor claimed that they had been ordered, but it wasn't just to surrender. I forget what it was, but they were basically told either surrender, or we're just going to kill everybody, which strikes me as a war crime. You're not allowed to do that. You're still allowed to take the city if you want to, but you're not allowed to just say we're going to kill every civilian if you don't. They formed a human shield around at least one of the buildings. And I mean the heroism of the civilians too is just really quite staggering. So. Are you permitted to do something like that? Is that quite a war crime yet? Or at least if they haven't done it, I mean, they're threatening it, but it was my understanding you can't do that kind of thing.
Well, you're not supposed to, but I mean, in Russia, I'm sorry, your borscht tastes funny. We're going to kill you and your entire extended family for that.
Yeah.
It's the only answer to anything is brutalize people.
All right. Now hold on one second, because there does appear to be just like a little glitch, a little snafu here in the system. So I'm trying to figure out why it's behaving a little strangely here. All right, I may just let it go. The center console there seems to have locked up. That was playing some footage. Well, let me take one stab at fixing this. Because I mean, I would like to. Oh no, you know what? It looks like it's locked up, because this is one of those things. You always get a little nervous trying to fix something like this, because you're like, well, if I mess with it, is the whole show just going to go down? It's like, when the software starts to act a little wonky, you're like, I'm not. All right, so
that's a school building, I believe.
Yeah, and then this one was my take on this was that the guy who was filming this wasn't actually being targeted. They were just shooting at everybody. I mean, I don't know if they had a spotter who saw that there was somebody filming this and then went after the guy, but you can see the guy who was filming this. There's a shell that comes in right next to him. Bam. I mean, it looks like he was targeted, but these things also happen just kind of randomly. I mean, weird shit happens on the battlefield, and everybody's recording this, so I mean, there are people that are going to be. We also showed earlier, and we may show that one more time. A guy who was at Freedom Square and was just sitting there recording and talking into his phone, and you can hear the shell coming in. Let's see. In fact, actually, I want to see, is there anything and like I said, the second vacuum bomb detonation, we don't. I mean, but it was done. You could tell it was very far away, and this guy's recording it, and then you see the thing go up, and then about 10 or 15 seconds later, this was the original convoy, by the way. Do you want to know how we confirmed this story? So we often do beat major networks live, and I've been told we beat every U.S. network live with the invasion. And we've done it before. We can do it any number of ways. In part is we actually have a couple of friends in some major network news organizations, actually abroad, who just let us know, they're like, hey, keep an eye out for, or this is about to happen. We knew this was going to happen. The cameras got cut along the border, and we got this footage of the convoy, and we're like, it looks legit. We kind of want to go with the invasion's happening, but how do we confirm this? Somebody went to Google Traffic and found a 7.1 mile gap of traffic along that road in real time. We're like, yeah, we'll take that as confirmation, but to the best of my knowledge, that's the first time an invasion has been confirmed by Google Traffic. All right. And then this is the what is it? Kherson, right here, and I think we're going to be showing a few of the newer clips coming up. And then I think one more clip. And then I think we maybe are going to start to wrap this up. President Sunday, who has been awfully gracious in amplifying this channel, and we sincerely appreciate that, did offer to have me come on at some point. So hopefully I'll be on his channel. And if Titan, if you'd be up for dropping a link to that, if you get a moment, I'd appreciate it. Let everybody know. So he discusses a wide range of things. He's been covering this too, and really amplifying us and our coverage, which I sincerely appreciate. And I'd love to go on his channel and talk to him about it. So that would be delightful. So I think we were planning on doing that tonight. It's been postponed. I think I'll check my DMs. I'm constantly getting DMs, but basically I ignore most DMs during a show because it's like it's between it's busy. All right, so what I'd like to do is we are going to show one or two more clips. I want to let some of these run and let you take a look at them. And if you see anything that you want to comment on, please let me know. But while you're doing that, if you could give me sort of the 10,000-foot view as we start to figure out how we're going to wrap this up here. You've already, I think, said it, but I want to frame it for everybody. At this point, what is the goal for the Ukrainian sides, and what is an outlook? A positive. What are they striving for that would be the best outcome for them, and how do you think they achieve it? And same thing for Putin. What are his goals at this point to get himself out of this, and what's his best way to achieve it, do you think?
For Putin, I think it's fairly straightforward. He needs to get a resolution to the conflict as quickly as possible. He needs to be able to go and slap some good news on the walls of Moscow, and then deal with the internal fallout of this foolish decision of his. And to that end, he's going to authorize just about anything if it offers the chance of bringing an end to the conflict. For the Ukrainians, I think it's kind of the opposite. It's hold out and continue to resist as long and as strongly as you can, as casualties mount, as the international sees the brutality of the Russians, sees that they're not just targeting military facilities, but this is an all-out war on the Ukrainian people. In effect, it's an attempt to either commit genocide or a forced ethnic cleansing of the region. The longer that lasts, the more pressure that's brought against the Russians, and the more possibility there is of actual physical assistance coming from somebody outside. So I think all of that together means that you've got two very diametrically opposed almost views of how the conflict should run. So as we used to say when I was at War College, starting a war is easy, ending a war is very difficult, because you have to either win outright or you come to a very murky middle ground where both sides can come away thinking that they've gained something but are still frustrated because they didn't get what they wanted. And I don't see how, at least in its current form, one side or the other can do that. I don't see that they're in a position where they're going to want to negotiate in good faith, because they don't get anything. I mean, the Ukrainians literally are going to have to say, get out of Ukraine, and you're going to have to pay indemnities for all the damage you've done. And I don't see Russia being willing to do that.
I've
Does that
noticed,
answer your question?
Yes, it does. I've noticed, though, and I've been wondering about this, do you think Crimea gets put on the table in part of that, especially if there was a demand, as I recall, issued by the EU that Russia leaves Ukraine? That demand, to the best of my recollection, did not actually explicitly mention Crimea, which is interesting because according to basically the rest of the world, Crimea is in fact Ukraine. and according to Putin, it is not. If he leaves but does not leave Crimea, do you think anyone makes an issue of it, or they just say, hey, look, we're back to where we were before the war, we'll cut our losses? Or do you think it's a mistake to not mention Crimea and say gets out of all of Ukraine, including Crimea?
I think if Ukraine is willing to cede the Crimea, but gets the Russians to withdraw their recognition of the independent republics in Donetsk and Luhansk, that could be something that worked. But I don't see that either side is at this juncture willing to let that happen. Once Putin recognized those two breakaway republics, he's kind of committed himself to maintaining the illusion that that's his victory. But allowing them to return to Ukraine is kind of a non-starter while he's still sitting on the throne.
So, and I do, to just give one specific, because you had said this before, so I want to punctuate it. So you think if he can take Ukraine, then he can put in a fake government and then basically walk out. I mean, he was still essentially up until recently. Just recently they changed the story, and I guess there's, is it tomorrow? I think there's an open, like, educational program where people can ask questions, presumably at gunpoint, about what's going on in Ukraine. So Russia's holding like this educational seminar. I think it's tomorrow. What they're actually going to do is the story. It's a huge pivot, and they're basically going to be saying essentially that our understanding is they're going to say that they are in fact at war in Ukraine, but it's a humanitarian war. We're there to free all Ukrainian people, yada yada yada, kind of thing. So it looks like he's going to change the narrative. And now I've forgotten where I was going to go with that. Oh yeah, so you had said, so you think it might be sufficient to pull the mission accomplished. If he takes Kiev and then installs a fake government and says, hey, we've rescued all of them, even though the rest of the world knows, we can read the map. He's got one city. And then he bails. Okay, he's got mission accomplished, and he's good on his end. So you think that might be sufficient and maybe enough where if he can do that, he's done?
I think so. I don't think it'd be immediate, but that gives him that facade, that Pochemkin village, if you will, to be able to declare victory and go home. If the country, the pro-Russian Ukraine doesn't last more than a fortnight, who cares? How long did South Vietnam last after we pulled out? How long did independent Afghanistan last after we pulled out? That's not the issue. The issue is being able to say, hey, we won, and the people didn't, follow through. They're the failure, not us. All
right. Well, thank you very much. The other thing that I think we did miss, and I want to point out, so we do have, and I mentioned this at the top, was that it looks like we have gotten a copy of, we as in just intelligence, I don't know who's holding it, but that there is in fact a copy of one of the original battle plans that was written up on the 27th, January 27th. I don't know if you know about that, or if you have any any opinion as to the credibility of that?
That's a real hard one to call. I mean, if in fact there were plans to simultaneously attack Ukraine and I think it was Lithuania, if that's the case, then Putin has completely taken leave of his senses, because the three Baltic states are members of NATO now. And the moment you do that, everybody gets involved, and it's no longer something he can control. And if he's having this much trouble with just Ukraine, you can imagine the kind of madness that would be going on if NATO itself were involved.
And actually, you had said earlier, you had suggested that there may be a point at which other countries would involve themselves. probably ostensibly not NATO, but maybe individual NATO states without triggering Article 5. Do you think that there is a probability of that? I think if this goes on long enough, yes, there's a probability. What do you think is the probability, and roughly how long before that becomes something that's seriously on the table, do you think?
I think the key issue there is if this becomes very evident that this is a deliberate act of genocide and/or forcible relocation of all Ukrainian people out of Ukraine. If that happens, then yeah, I think individual countries, particularly the ones that border on Ukraine, are going to say it's time to get involved, and they will go in. The real question then becomes how many of the other countries that don't have common borders are going to get involved, and how quickly is that all going to happen?
I want to make something clear, just because there's a question in the live chat. And we have not confirmed this. Now I've taken a cursory glance at it.
I know.
Yeah, no, I know you know that. There's a live chat. In the live chat, there's somebody who seems to believe that this is guaranteed to be true, and we don't know. So I'm just to answer the live chat. I've taken the reason I asked Commander McMillan about it is because I've looked at that plan, and so here's what I did. Here's the Soutter impression of those, like the battle plan. It's a map. Ooh, there are red lines on the map. There are red lines. There are red lines on the map. That's me looking at this thing. So I can't tell if it's legit. I can't tell if it's my 4-year-old with crayons. I don't know. I wanted to see if it's credible. Nobody knows if it's legit. The one thing that we do need to make crystal clear is we've talked about propaganda before, and propaganda is actually not a dirty word. I remember the first time I sort of learned that was somebody told me that I had just finished watching the Apollo 13 movie, the movie Apollo 13. They said, "Oh, that's a propaganda film," and I was just like, "What? It's a propaganda film? That's roughly how it happened," and so it's pretty accurate. And they said, "Well, that's not really the point. Obviously, this film was created to instill a sense of awe in NASA, and it was designed to make us feel more patriotic and feel like we're so, whether that was, some government agency saying or whatever, it's a propaganda film. Doesn't mean it's false. It just means that. But but propaganda is I think we still do use it in general as false, but it's all sides do it. We do it. They do it. If you're Ukrainian, actually, you may speak to this better. So let me do my 2 cents, and if you have a better take, I bet you'll have a much better take on this than me. But since I've already started, it's my show, and I have the hand on the mute button, so you stop pretending like you're going to come in and lecture us. But thank you for being here, by the way. So if if you're Ukrainian. Right now, and we're just going to assume de facto they're the good guys in this, you will do what it takes to win. And if that means turning the people who died at Snake Island into heroes, that's what it means. It looks like now there's credible evidence that they may not have died. Nobody's advertising that, and I'm not actually very eager to advertise that myself because I think they need all the morale boosts they can get, and that was a huge moment. So, but it's propaganda. Yep. It's whether or not and when we see the numbers of deaths coming out of there, you have to realize that even if they're trying to be reasonably honest about it, the Ukrainians, if they can justify, they will give at a minimum the highest number they can justify. Of course they will, because it makes the world more outraged and it increases their chances of survival. They are trying to survive. You're going to see propaganda coming out of there. Somebody has released this purported battle plan that was, as you suggested, just basically unhinged and insane and out of that battle plan is one of two things. It's the actual battle plan, which would be staggering, or it's somebody trying to garner extra support against Putin to say he's utterly insane and it's fictitious. We don't know. But like I said, I look at it, and again, my 11-year-old, if she decided to make a battle plan that I thought might be legit, she could probably get away with it. So that's me looking at this thing. So that's why I asked him. We don't know. We don't know. So anyways, what do you think about my definition of propaganda there and sort of how that operates in situations like this, sir?
I think it's a good assessment of what propaganda is. Propaganda does not have to be a lie. It can be the truth. It's just how you spin it, and that you're using the presentation to try to shape opinion one way or another. It's not presented as just simple fact. It's using words very deliberately to shape opinions. So, yeah, I could see either side playing this game. That said, I think the war plan that allegedly has been leaked is the obvious thought is that, yeah, this was leaked by somebody pro-Ukrainian to try to, send alarm through the world that the Russians are even worse than we thought they were. But the potential exists for it to be the other way around. It could be a Russian deliberate release of false information. The Russians have a long history of using disinformation for these purposes. And I think in some ways it could work here when you think about what the whole war plan, and I don't mean, war as in sending troops across the border, but the whole plan of how strategically this campaign, well before the actual military side began, the war plan that the Russians had was to scare the West into making concessions. Constant ratcheting up of tensions. So if just before or just after the invasion starts, a phony war plan is leaked that says, oh yeah, and we were getting ready to invade Lithuania too, and oh my God, that would be World War III. Well, we better give him something to back him off because he's crazy, man.
That's interesting. I know ahead mod that thinks on that kind of meta. Yeah. Sorry, please continue.
Yeah, you cannot discount that as a possibility here.
That's so I hadn't even considered.
Yeah.
And we have. I really do. Please.
I was going to say, and then there's a false Russian release of it. There's a false pro-Ukrainian release of it. And then there's the, I think, low chance, but a chance that it actually is a compromised war plan that was floated. And that doesn't mean it was approved, obviously, because they didn't go into Lithuania. But, as I think I mentioned previously when we've talked about these things, I said typically you present your boss with 3 plans of action. You have the one you want him to choose. You have one that is obviously garbage, which he's going to discount right from the start. And then you have one that's flawed, and he'll look at it critically and say, no, the other one's better, and choose the one you planned to have him choose all along. It could be that, we're going into Lithuania was the throwaway plan.
Okay, so in that case, it would be a legit battle plan, but not one that anyone actually ever intended to execute. It was just drawn up mostly as a throwaway.
Yeah.
We have a question from Titan, and there's actually kind of a follow-up because I like the way he phrased this. He just said, quote, if you siege a city with an enemy guerrilla army at your back, you are the one that is surrounded, which I thought was interesting. And I think that ties to his question here. Does the commander think that a siege of Kiev can work with a guerrilla army besieging the Russians back?
Caesar at the siege of Gergovia, I believe it's, the French Celtic leader Vercingetorix. And you have the town holding out, the Romans besieging the town, and then a massive army shows up and surrounds the Romans who are surrounding the town. That's kind of the same thing you're looking at if in the situation you're talking about. It happens. The real issue is how effective that guerrilla force is in being able to starve out the besiegers. I don't think we've really seen the effects or even an actual guerrilla campaign going on. A lot of this looks to be uh, you know, force-on-force confrontation between the Ukrainian army and irregular and malicious supporters against the Russian invaders. I don't doubt for a moment that there isn't a bunch of stuff going on behind the lines, but we haven't received a lot of reporting on what that is and how effective it is. My suspicion is that the Russians probably didn't make a lot of allowance for rear area security. So that would mean they're especially vulnerable to people attacking and harassing supply convoys and such. And to counter that, they'd have to call up a bunch of reservists who are poorly equipped and not particularly well trained under the Russian system to try to police the rear areas. And then you get the same kind of brutal actions that you see anytime there's a guerrilla war. The forces that are fighting the irregulars get really frustrated because it's so hard to pin them down and bring them to battle. And so you immediately start striking against the civilian population who are supporting the guerrillas instead. So you get an escalating series of brutalities. Reprisal upon reprisal.
All right, I want to discuss one last thing with you. It'll be brief, but before I do that, once again, anyone who wants to learn more about what we do, learn about the guests, we often have them in VC too, and you can chat and ask them questions yourselves. I think tonight we're gonna just sort of call it a night rather than unless Commander McMillan really wants to join the VC, because I know he knows how to do Discord. I think at some point we'd like to have you come on just to do that and let people ask you questions themselves, because I think a lot of our audience really wants to take advantage of how much you know about this. But so I joined the Discord. That's the easiest way to find out what we're doing. We are an educational program. So we've done a lot of interviews. We do cover the news. We cover breaking news. We often cover it live if it's something that's really of importance at the U.S. national level or higher. That's sort of the bar. It may be a little arbitrary, but we can cover everything. But but we also we have a number of shows. We have In Time, which is sort of the main flagship show, which covers in which we do interviews, or sometimes we'll just sit and discuss a topic for a bit. We have Overtime, which is what you're watching now. After Dark, where we invite people to just come in and chat, and we may have one where we'll have Commander McMillan come on, and people can also just ask him directly. You can call in. We've got a call-in number. Here's what we are going to do, sir, which is I owe you a drink at a minimum. All of this. So since we're so far away, I will figure out how I'm going to get that drink to you. Either you name the brand, and you're going to get a bottle of it, and we will have an After Dark.
Dude, I'm a cheap date.
Thank God.
I said I'm a cheap date. I don't drink alcohol.
I can't. I have a nerve condition, and even a glass puts me in excruciating pain, and I basically don't recover completely from it. I'll recover 99%, but I can't. Drinking is big no. So we'll figure something out. Grape juice, I don't know what it is, but here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do an After Dark, and it'll be you and I. And people want to ask questions, fine, but we're gonna sit there, and because this is the kind of thing we do anyway, and I want to do this, which is after this is done, and after we've all had a chance to decompress, you and I are going to talk history, and we're going to talk Stalin, we're going to talk World War II, and that's just it. And we're going to be drinking casually our grape juice, and we'll pretend it's spiked so that we have an excuse to just get a little silly on the show. So if you're willing, and if I can get you on, you have a standing invitation to do that, just you and I shooting the shit for a couple of hours about history, World War II, but anything else, I'm sure your knowledge of history well outstrips my own in this regard. But I think that'll be a fun conversation. So I hope you will accept that invitation, and that's a.
Oh yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. We do normally in time, usually on Tuesdays, overtime. The rundown covers the news of the week. Obviously, both shows have been really in hiatus. We're all hands on deck trying to cover this. This is extremely important. We're trying to figure out how and when we're going to return at least to some normalcy on the news, because as Porpoise really pointed out with our super chat, which we appreciate, there is important stuff that we've been neglecting. And as an educational program, it's sort of like we have to make sure we do cover those things too, if you're going to be an informed voter in the U.S., which is what we are most, I think, desperately lacking right now. Somebody needs to be covering this stuff. So, we're going to try to figure out how and when, as we pace, sort of also being able to maintain accurate coverage of what's going on in Ukraine, because it's extremely important, and what's going on for in general for the U.S. Simply because that's mostly our audience and the people we can speak with will do that, because there have been developments that are important. Trump winning the straw poll at CPAC is one of them. Oh dear Lord! And then Taylor Greene going to a white nationalist and doing that. And then I think somebody said that Taylor Greene spotted there was a spotting at a Taylor Greene rally. There was somebody spotted Taylor Greene, and I don't know why her first name always just Marjorie Taylor Greene. It is reported that Marjorie Taylor Greene was spotted at a Marjorie Taylor Greene rally, and when asked what she was doing at that rally, she said, "I'm sorry, I didn't know just how extreme the candidate was," and left and didn't come back. At any rate, oh, come on, that was funny. Oh, you've been, okay. So it wasn't my best joke of the evening, but you've been giving me courtesy laughs. I can't believe I didn't get one for that. All right, so thank you all, and we will, So we'll be back tomorrow. We've basically, notwithstanding breaking news, and I think tonight, I think he's going to continue to escalate. I think tonight's going to get worse than last night, which was significantly worse than the night before. Based on that assumption, there's nothing we can really do just covering war crimes and atrocities as they happen. If something big happens, if it looks like there's a big enough push at Kiev and there are enough casualties that it's even beyond the increase we're already expecting, we'll go live. If you want to know about it, like and subscribe either way. That's a great way to, without super chats or anything, helps us. I hate asking for it because it's like I don't want to sit there and beg my audience for this stuff. But on the flip side, it really helps with the algorithm and it helps the show. So there's a free, easy way. Like and subscribe. There's a reason all of us do it. It's not because we signed the YouTube contract that says you will always shill for the show. No, it really helps. So if you can do that, that's a great way to support our show. And so I hope you'd be willing to do that. If you ring the bell, and now you have to set the kind of notifications you want, but if you put on all notifications, at least for the duration of this, if this is what you're interested in, then if we go live with breaking news, you'll know. And that's the easiest way. I am a big fan of Grammar Kami. This person clearly knows comedy. Thank you for being here with us and giving me the support that I desperately need with jokes like that. Thank you, Commander McMillan, for joining us. Once again, it has been delightful and very helpful for our audience, and I ask you sometimes the same questions over and over again, but it's because sometimes we have a new audience, and you're always great about it and always there and helping us out. So thank you once again for spending yet another evening with me on YouTube.
Thanks for having me. Had a good time. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. So we'll hopefully not speak to you guys again until 9 p.m. No offense, but if there's no breaking news, we're just what we've been doing here is 24/7 collating what's going on and trying to give it to you as accurate as possible, which has been a certifiable nightmare for most of this, because there's a lot of lying going on. So you want to come see how the sausage is made, see how we do this show, and maybe even help out. Come join us on the Discord. Until then, absent any serious breaking news, we will see you tomorrow night, 9 p.m. That's roughly when we're shooting for. Remember, it's in time, not on time. See you tomorrow.